Welcome to Making Our Way Forward, a podcast where we share compelling life stories and learn from the experience of everyday entrepreneurs. At NACCE, we celebrate diversity and invite you to join the conversation as we talk to entrepreneurs and leaders from all walks of life. We hope that by telling their stories, we bring you inspiration, empower you to take action, and ignite entrepreneurship in your community.
Welcome to Making Our Way Forward podcast. I'm Nataliia, a podcast producer. And today we celebrate our first anniversary since we first published our podcast episode. And we are also celebrating our first micro wins on our podcast journey. Today with us, our amazing host, Dr. Rebecca Corbin, President and CEO of NACCE, and also Jeff Smith, our Director for Innovation and Equity. We published our first episode a month ago. We already have listenership on 4 continents, on 10 territories, in 92 cities. Isn't that amazing? So what was the secret of that podcast? Of course, it's about the content, it's about our amazing guests, and as we were listening to their journey, about the healing, about the vulnerabilities, about some of the wins that they had, we all got inspired. But more so, we had so many events coming this month, so maybe I'll just turn to Dr. Rebecca Corbin and Jeff, and let's hear about how was it for you, like this 1 month of experience on the podcast.
Nataliia, it was great. It's one of the things that we've been talking about a little bit is that, it gave us an opportunity to do something new. And we all know that it's spring. And there's a quote that I love that was actually sent to me just a few days ago by a friend of mine. And he says, "But spring reminds us that death gives way to life." And so just beginning this podcast has been a new venture. It's allowed us to really think about the exciting things that has come out of us having to take a pause due to the pandemic. So there have been some life-giving things that have happened as a result of us slowing down. And the podcast has been one of them. We've been able to have meaningful conversations, authentic dialogue, and we've had an opportunity to actually take time to dream. And so we are super excited about this first month and about the new beginnings that are springing up all around us.
Jeff, that's great. And it's been an interesting journey. I think we'll all look back on this year in a decade or so to come and think about what we've learned and how we've grown. Love the quote that you shared. I would love to share a quote too. And I have a little story. I had shared this with you and Nataliia earlier this morning. A quote that I was thinking about comes from Eleanor Roosevelt, who was our longest serving First Lady. She served in that capacity from 1933 to 1945. And she was a pioneer in civil rights. She was the first delegate to the UN. What I love about her is she did not have an easy life. And I think about all of us and our stories, and very few people come unscathed, and if you do, I think it's almost a disadvantage, because I think part of our life's journey is really to try to figure out what is our purpose. So First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." And it's funny that you talk a lot about us beginning to dream again. And I think that is so important. And the story I wanted to share with the listeners and to you two, who are not only my colleagues, but my dear friends, is I was feeling earlier in the week a little bit, I want to say, overwhelmed. We've had a bunch of things that are great opportunities, but I was trying to sort through things. And all of a sudden I woke up early in the morning, as I often do, and I looked at my phone and had a Google alert reminder of photographs from 5 years ago. And I was thinking, okay, it was, I think, March 15th. Where was I 5 years ago? All of a sudden I'm looking at these photographs. There's a photograph of me in front of the portrait of Eleanor Roosevelt when I had the opportunity to be at the White House at the invitation of our President Barack Obama, who was celebrating Women's History Month. And what was so wonderful about that memory is, number one, I forgot about it. And I felt a little guilty about that because I'm such a fan of her. So I thought, how can I forget about something that important? So there's a lesson there. But the other thing I was sharing with you, Jeff, when I texted you a couple of pictures, is that it was originally intended for First Lady Michelle Obama to be the host of this event. There were all these amazing women there. I don't know how I managed to get on the list, but didn't even ask. I was like, I'll show up, and delighted to represent NACCE. So President Obama entered the room, and it was just a flurry, and everyone was so excited. And in a very humble but funny way, he said, I know all of you ladies are very disappointed that Michelle is not here, but I'm her stand-in. And then people just broke into laughter. And, think about it, 5 years ago. I know everyone is good at taking selfies, except for me, probably. But he just encouraged people to, take selfies and remember the moment and celebrate. And Jeff, that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier on celebration. So I would love to hear you say again what you reminded me of that I hadn't forgotten about what we do as colleagues and friends to celebrate and keep our spirits light.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I most appreciate about this time is that we have had to find ways to be intentional about finding joy and about having the opportunity to care for ourselves and for one another. So one of the ways that we've been able to do that here at NACCE is through appreciation celebration for us all. And to be honest with you, that was one of the best times that I have had in a long time. We had an opportunity to laugh with each other. We had an opportunity to get to know each other better, just through some of the things that we shared about our childhood and during our young adult lives and where we all come from. We played games together. So it literally reminded me of the times that I've been able to spend with my family. And, during this time of the pandemic, we've been so disconnected from people that we care about and love. So to be able to have an opportunity to come together, to appreciate one another and to celebrate in that way was phenomenal. And that's certainly one of the things that I think the benefits of the time that we've had to kind of slow down and to have to reimagine what it means to be intentional about some of those things. And so that was super great for me.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, to dream and to be intentional. And I think, too, to understand that, sort of cloudy days are part of the journey. Sometimes it's easy to get consumed in it. And some of the things that we've done, and Natalia, that I've learned from you, because I'm just admire so much that you speak several languages. She challenged me to ask me what language did I speak. And I said a little bit of Spanish very poorly, but I was thinking about it when you asked me, Natalia, do I use my Spanish? And I was thinking about how I often don't because I'm embarrassed because I can't speak it properly. And I thought, that's not really an entrepreneurial leader. You have to lean into the space of practicing and kind of putting yourself out there. So I think dreaming, being intentional and knowing that on the other side of this whole year, in addition to celebrating our first month podcast anniversary, I guess we could say we celebrated, we honored the first year of really the lockdown. And what I've been starting to hear that I'm so excited about is thinking about what life looks like on the other side. Um, One of the things in my capacity working at NACCE, not on the podcast, but in my other role as working as a president, I've been contacted by a number of the people who are going to be taking up leadership roles. I've been struck by how inclusive they are intentionally trying to be and how they're not using language to not include people. And one of the reasons, not just reaching out to me, but many, many people that run different associations, is they want to have a lot of different voices. So even this week, I got an email maybe 48 hours ago that said the they were convening a meeting of the National Economic Council. They wanted to talk about the CARES Act and how to help people who were either left behind that didn't get loans before or didn't really understand how to apply. So by looking not only at the NACCE network, but many, many other really good organizations like the Black Chambers of Commerce and many, many others, in that short span of time, they had 1,500 people on a call yesterday. And just the questions were flying in. I think they had maybe 500 questions. And it just was another cause, Jeff, for me to celebrate is that, I feel that, the goodness of people has always been there, but maybe because we were shuttered and separated from each other for many of us, it gave us that opportunity to kind of lean in. We have another celebration that's coming up in March, in addition to, Women's History Month, is something that we're doing with the HBCUs in North Carolina. So maybe you could speak a little bit about, for people that may not know the history, or, you don't have to go in depth, but what HBCU is, what it means, and kind of what we're going to be doing later this month.
Yeah, definitely. So we're so excited to be doing work with historically Black colleges and universities. And historically Black colleges and universities have been at the forefront of serving people of color throughout the history of our nation. And so they have done so much work. They have helped thinking about reimagining. They have helped people to reimagine their lives and their place in society. And so this month, we get to come alongside and to support some of our HBCUs in North Carolina as we bring them on to help be a part of the work that we're doing as it relates to equity and as it relates to helping people to dream about their futures, to think about the opportunities that they have in different fields, whether it be in STEM fields or whether it is going on to actually start or create a business. And so we are super excited to be celebrating with them with Women History Month, two presidents and actually three presidents that we have an opportunity to come alongside of them and to do some good work as they have been doing, but we get to support them in that. So that is certainly, something to be grateful for and to celebrate. So we're excited that that's coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too. I had a chance to meet Dr. Dillard, who's the president of Shaw University last year, and I was just so touched at how accessible she was. We were in Raleigh and we were just there, and our colleague Katie Gales, who's a friend of hers, proud HBCU graduate from Bennett College, just called her up and said, NACCE's here. Do you want to meet with them? And so I sort of felt like a little bit of a celebrity that day. But we took this picture standing outside of her office, and I was thinking about the history of these institutions. I was also thinking about, you had mentioned, Jeff, your family, and I was thinking about my father, who I have to give a shout out today because he's a proud Irishman who did that, DNA test, and he was hoping that maybe there's something a little bit more mixed in his lineage, but he is 99.9% Irish. So David John O'Brien is I'm lucky enough to be his daughter. But what was interesting about it, and he shares this in common with you, Jeff, is he's a sociologist by training as well. He's now retired, but still writing books and doing good work. And I remember as a child, he would tell me about some of his experiences when his family moved from Massachusetts to Virginia, and just that he became aware as a child of racial issues. And this was way back in, I guess it would have been the 50s or so, and how that just struck him, and it upset his father, my grandfather John O'Brien, so much. And the family ended up moving back to Massachusetts, but he just felt this calling to do something about it. So you think about reflections and people that have been really instrumental, whether they're family members. So I mentioned two. I mentioned Eleanor Roosevelt, Nataliia, who's on the call, and you, Jeff, of course, and then my dad. But I'd love it if maybe you could close us out and talk to us about someone else that we haven't talked about on this call that has been an influence, inspiration to you. And maybe a challenge to our listeners is dream more, be intentional about celebrating, and think today, if you can, about somebody who's inspired you and try to be that light for someone else. So, Jeff, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, so in in terms of celebration, I have to mention that my birthday is actually March the 25th. And so that I'm certainly excited to be in the land of the living, as my twin brother would say. So I have speaking of family, I do have a twin brother, and he has been very inspirational in my life. His name is Dr. Jason Smith. He has a doctorate in nursing practice, and the work that he does work around health disparities. And so it has been super amazing to see his life and his commitment to health equity. During the pandemic, he was frontline, committed to his work. He helped to stir me and encourage me to keep moving, to pursue meaningful work. And so he is someone who has definitely been an inspiration in my life, someone that I love very much. It's an interesting phenomenon to have someone that you've grown up with and you can reflect throughout your life with, and you can help push each other on and challenge each other to do better. So anyway, I celebrate him this month on March the 25th as we celebrate our birthdays. And I am so grateful for both a brother and a friend, and someone who, I can look at his life, and he's 30 minutes older than me. So I can look at
Your older brother.
yeah, he's my older brother. But I can look at his life and continue to gain inspiration. So super thankful for that, and great to be celebrating that with him this month.
And we have some special celebrations planned for you too. So we'll continue that. And Nataliia, maybe too, since we have a minute or two left, you're our sort of global citizen. You put UN sustainability goals on the wall and are always reminding us of the good that we can do in the world. Is there something that you might like to share just about a person, maybe somebody that is not connected to, North America or the United States, who's inspired you to become the person that you are?
Well, as we are picking up some favorite quotes, I also pulled mine for a moment, and I think it's very relevant to this discussion. And thank you, Becky and Jeff, for sharing some parts of your family and some of your stories. And I'm not quite sure about the citizenship of this person. It's Daniel Dobie, and the quote is about be around the light bringers, the magic makers, the world shifters, the game shakers. They challenge you, break you open, uplift and expand you. They don't let you play small with your life. Their heartbeats are your people. These people are your tribe. So every time I look at this quote, I see that I'm so blessed wherever I go to find people around me with these features, like with this, and I feel like that they're my tribe. People who feel genuinely, people who have empathy, who celebrate these small moments of life, and who get together to really appreciate each other. So I'm truly lucky to be also on NACCE team, because that's the culture here. And I love our the NACCE Giving Tree, which we decorate together as an office team every month to give tribute to some particular holiday or celebration, uniting us in so many different ways. And talking about our podcast, we just have 5 episodes published in February. We have so many more coming, and with topics coming from how to create a culture of care, and also about the power of mentorship, inclusion, and leadership with an advocate for positive change at the Department of Energy that's coming up next, or how to close the equity gap in the community colleges with provost and vice president of one of the community colleges. We will also talk to some libraries about how can libraries close the entrepreneurial gap. We will talk about how to lead from the middle, about disruptions that people have at the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey and what happens next, how they overcome these challenges. Also, as we are moving into our makerspace and events in May, we will be talking to some makers. And Jeff, sorry if I'm going to release some of the information, but I truly like the idea about how to build a makerspace, make an ecosystem all over the nation and the world. Or one of the topics that I was particularly impressed, how can you squeeze a complex world down into a 6-foot tall museum? So stay tuned, sign up for this podcast, share this with your friends and family, and we are eagerly expecting you back in our world. So with that, I pass it back to Jeff and back to you. And again, thank you. You've been amazing hosts, and you make our listeners very comfortable. And we hear from them that they reveal their stories and they feel empowered, and they feel that they can be the voice of those who are listening right now, maybe experiencing the same. So thank you for this opportunity, and let's celebrate another win soon.
That was good.
That was
I think.
good. Yeah. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that listening to this podcast will help you to explore the many ways we might define entrepreneurship. Join us every other Wednesday for more episodes as we celebrate opportunity, learn from one another, and grow together. Subscribe to this podcast, connect with us on social media, and learn more about today's speakers at NACCE.com/podcast. We look forward to making our way forward together with you.